So what you see here is a Beretta 9222, or the M22. I don't know what they call it exactly, but it is most certainly a Beretta. M9 22. So what am I doing? I'm stripping this thing down. There are no videos on how to do it down to the bone, and it is difficult because this is polymer. And what I've done already is I've replaced the spring to the D spring. Made a big difference. I'll probably pull this out. There it is, the D spring. But I wanted to go ahead and do some more mods to it. Why? Because I can and I want to. Now here is basically the internals. This is all, I don't know if it's steel or aluminum, it's pretty heavy. But to take this out, you have to take these 3 pins out. One of them is right there, another one is right there, and the last one would be the lanyard down there, right there. So those 3 pins come out, and now you have tension off of the hammer spring, and basically this thing just floats in there. Now what made it difficult is because this right here is the threads for the grips. So the grip comes on and it threads on there. Those aren't removable. On the regular Berettas, they have threaded inserts. This is not an insert, this is tapped into this frame on both sides. And there it is for the other side. Now those protrude. You can kind of see it there, and that side even more. And because they protrude, they basically protrude and pop out from here. So that's what keeps that frame in the polymer part of the frame. So there is some prying involved. So if you don't know what you're doing, I highly suggest you don't even bother. But I've done a fair share of gun mods myself, so I felt comfortable in doing this. But to pry it, I use just 2 flatheads. Really. That's it, and I managed to kind of wiggle it out. So basically when this goes back in, it'll go in like that. So why did I pull this out? Pulling it out because, apart from possibly doing a trigger job myself, polishing some stuff, I wanted to change the hammer out to the skeletonized hammer, make it look cooler. And I wanted to change out the polymer trigger. This is a plastic trigger. I usually don't like plastic or polymer guns. I do like this one, and my Glock 19 are the only polymer guns I have. So if I can remove as much plastic as I can, I will. The other plastic piece here is this piece here, which is to remove the slide. So that's the button you push to swiggle this thing around. This is metal, but the button's plastic. So I'm going to find a metal one to replace it with, a skeletonized hammer, and swap the trigger out to a metal one, and install the wolf spring in there as well. The only way to do this is to pull this whole thing out. It's not easy. So, yeah. As far as the slide goes, there's nothing really to do on here. The controls and everything are metal, captured spring. Feels great overall. So I wanted to make sure I can take this apart first before I order my parts. I just happen to have a D-spring because I've got quite a few Berettas and have had a regular black M9 that I got rid of. I shouldn't have, but now this is the only black Beretta I have. I had an extra D spring lying around, so I put that in. So I'm gonna go ahead and look into ordering the hammer, the trigger spring, and this piece here all in metal. Put it all together, polish what I can, and then put this thing back together. Should have a video of that once I get it all. But there's all the parts, basically it torn apart. I found interesting is in here it's actually got screws holding this two-piece frame together. It's just sandwiched. You can see it. It's split. Now you don't want to split this because there's a lot of small parts and springs, so you have to be real careful. But I did have to take these two screws out to be able to just ever so slightly split the back end to be able to pull the hammer out, because the hammer's got this pin which you cannot push out. It comes out afterward. It's a sleeve. So without the sleeve, and without that secondary hole here, it's exactly the same hammer that you would find in a regular Beretta. So I'll get that and just won't use the second hole. I won't need it. Just use the main hole and put it in. Polish up the hook there. Call it good. So as you can see on this, hold on, let me go grab my other Beretta and compare. Okay. So as you can see here, the trigger has a pin here that's being held in by the spring, that little notch right there, spring out of this slide catch. That is not on here on the other Beretta, on the 22. So that is missing from there. So you cannot swap the trigger out without pulling it completely apart, along with the hammer. The hammer normally would have a big fat pin right here, and there's nothing there on both sides. So you have to pull the guts out to be able to access this pin right there to drop the trigger out. In this gun, it's a screw. You remove that, and you remove the bottom one to be able to split it just a little bit so you can work that hammer out. So it's doable. I'm gonna do it, see how it works afterward. I'm sure it'll be just fine, and hopefully this video helps you out. But there's my other M9. Still haven't decided what grips to put on it. I really like these aluminum ones, but these ones look good on the Enox that I have. So I don't know what I'll end up with grips on that. Thought I had some extra wraparounds lying around, but I didn't. So yeah, next video soon to come for the assembly.